Hello, my name is Olivia Spate, and I'm here to give a informative speech on the history of the Tudors, which include King Henry VIII and his wife Anne Boleyn and their daughter Queen Elizabeth. We'll start with King Henry. King Henry, as I'm sure you can imagine, was very well educated. He was brought up well. He was actually very athletic. He also had an older brother who was Arthur. Arthur died, and but before his death, he was expected to marry Catherine of Aragon of Spain. But when he died, and Henry knew that he would be the next in line to rule, he felt obligated to make Catherine his queen. And so he did. And it became a very close friendship, and they really respected each other as friends and loved each other. Speaking of his wives, Henry is, of course, known for his 6 wives. 2 of the 6 he actually beheaded and executed. But his other wives include, as I mentioned, Catherine of Aragon, Anne Boleyn, Catherine Parr, Catherine Howard, Anne of Cleves, and Jane Seymour. Now, King Henry's biggest legacy is perhaps the Church of England. The Church of England changed England forever. See, before this, they were Catholic. The country was Catholic. Actually, most of Europe was Catholic. The Catholic Church had huge, huge impact and influence over the country. And a big no-no in the Catholic Church is divorce. Huge no-no. But that was a problem for Henry, since he fell in love with Anne Boleyn and wanted to marry her and make her his queen. But to do this, he'd have to divorce Catherine, which he knew the Pope would never give permission to divorce his first wife. The Pope just wouldn't do it, and the Catholic Church wouldn't do it. So he had to come up with a way to divorce his wife. So he came up with the Church of England. This way he would be free to marry and divorce anyone he chose. And as I said, it changed England forever. To this day, it is still the Church of England. Now, moving on to Anne Boleyn, who's perhaps one of my favorite historical figures ever. She's extremely fascinating and very ambitious. And concerning what she did as a woman, in the early 1500s, was just amazing. She grew up with a very powerful and influential family. In fact, her uncle, Thomas Howard, was the Duke of Norfolk, and he was a politician and mentor to the king. And he knew that the king liked his mistresses, so he introduced his niece to the king, because he knew that he wanted his family to be powerful, and how else to be more powerful than to have your niece be with the king of England. So that was a huge part of that. But Anne's early life also, she was also a maid of honor or, dating and everything, to both Claude of France and Catherine of Aragon, King Henry's first wife. She would attend her, which is messed up, but that's what happened. So, after Anne got her grip on King Henry, Henry wanted to divorce his wife, and he did. As I mentioned earlier, he had to change the religion of not just him, but the country to do it. He went to extraordinary measures to marry Anne. And Anne promised him a male heir that Catherine was unable to give him. You see, Catherine was 10 years older than the king, and she had one daughter who was Mary, as you probably best know her as Bloody Mary. And she was no longer able to bear children after that. And King Henry was almost obsessed with getting his male heir. So that also had a huge influence on him divorcing Catherine. So here he has this young, pretty English girl, and when he divorces Catherine and marries Anne and makes her his queen, she failed to produce the male heir that she had promised him. But it wasn't the worst thing, because it would end up becoming Queen Elizabeth. But then I'll have my son. After the pregnancy and giving birth to Elizabeth, she did become pregnant again. And it is believed that she did in fact carry a boy, but she miscarried. And once that happened, the king was furious. He blamed her for basically turning his world upside down. And since she could not produce the male heir that she had promised, he had no use for her and was really disgusted by her at this point. So he had her executed. And in 1536, Anne Boleyn was beheaded. And Anne has contributed to history because she gave birth to Queen Elizabeth, who the British still think as one of the best monarchs in all of their history. She was just brilliant, and she did so much. And without Anne, of course, there would be no Elizabeth. So that's perhaps her biggest influence to history. And she was also probably going to be known in history books for also being the first queen in all of world history to be executed. Never been happened before. Alright, so when Anne was executed, her daughter, Elizabeth, was just 2 years old. So after her mother died, her father got occupied with Jane Seymour, and she Elizabeth was going to be raised by Anne's sister, Mary, sorry. Anne's sister, Mary. Queen Elizabeth is also probably well known, again, like her father, for the religious aspects, because she was Catholic, even though her father had gotten rid of it in England. She still was Catholic, but at the same time she was also Protestant, and she wanted both of them. She didn't want to choose one or the other, so she chose both, and she made it possible for her people to have that as well. And what she did for her country, England, is still talked about to this day. She has influenced the world as well, with exploring the world and the Americas, and she cared so much for her country. She loved her country. In fact, she's known as the Virgin Queen, and this is because she never married. In fact, she always said England was her husband, and she was married to England. And the people loved her for it, because she did love them, and she was a great queen, and she loved being queen. She ruled for about 45 years as a monarch, which back then was unheard of. People didn't live very long, and they definitely didn't rule for that long, but she did, and she still has such a huge impact on not just England's history, but world history. All three of the people that I have discussed have contributed to history and changed it. And, but yeah, so that's my informative speech. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. I hope it wasn't a little interesting. So, thank you.